hello again. Welcome back. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant, and so have Jack with us, and a great lead into this next session. So, and we've got some fantastic panelists here as well. I'm going to just introduce them, but I don't think they need any introduction. Firstly, the Chief Executive of the European Tour, Keith Pelly. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
I know you've had a bit of sun today. You're in a sunny climate.
I got burnt. That's what happens when you go from rainy, cold England to 27 and sunny, and then you make a mistake and you do the sunscreen really quickly and you miss the key spot. So I'm in big trouble today with our chief medical officer.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. We'll come to that in a while. Anthony Scanlon, Executive Director of the International Golf Federation, IGF. Anthony, I assume you're in Lausanne.
I am, mate, and we've got snow here. So no sun, Keith.
No, and I can't hear anyone either now.
Oh,
yeah, you can hear me and I can hear them. I don't know if I can hear them, but we'll try.
We're hearing you.
Thank you. Bye.
And Alex, great timing. Chief Executive of the Ladies European Tour. Can you hear us well now? No, but thanks for joining, and I'll join Alex in when we can. So we've had a great few days here, guys, chatting. I mean, the real theme of our conference has been collaboration. And it's been, we've had 46 different nationalities registered on the Congress, which is in itself fantastic, and some great discussions. And I'm just going to lead in from those discussions I've just had with Jack about kind of innovation, and start with you, Keith. We've been pushing short form team golf. You've also been big on this with Golf Sixes. Any thoughts from you?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear what the legend Jack Nicklaus talked about, but he's a real forward thinker. He happened to be at Wentworth. It was about 4 to 5 months ago I think it might have been longer than that, for the anniversary of the concession with Tony Jacklin. And he just the way that he promotes our game and the way that he talks about growing the game, I bet you was probably riveting. And I'm sorry that I missed his talk, but innovation is a critical component of the game, which really complements the 72-hole tournament and complements the 18-hole recreational round. And I think what is important is to constantly be adjusting and evaluating how different demographics, how different groups that haven't grown up with our game can get involved in it. And Golf Sixes has been an enormous success that we started as a professional tournament, but where it has really grown is in the likes of Scotland and throughout the UK in terms of grassroots. And that's what it's really about. Is Golf Sixes is a quick, fast-paced 1 hour and an opportunity for people to get involved and fall in love with the game. And I think that's the most critical thing, Ian, is getting people to fall in love with the game. And you can't fall in love with something that starts by being incredibly frustrating, because it is a very tough game, and it also takes 4 or 5 hours. And by the time you get to the golf course and you play, that's a big commitment for someone starting out. So I think what we really need to look at as a whole, as an industry, and that's why we created Golf Sixes, is something that can get the player or the potential player who has never experienced our wonderful game to start it, and start it with little tiny chunks. And that's why the other thing that has been phenomenal for our game is adventure golf and the likes of Topgolf. That has, again, provided an opportunity for people to experience our game, fall in love with it. And I always believe the 18-hole course is well down the road for the beginner. And that's just my philosophy. But I think innovation in not only our sport, but in all sports is absolutely critical for the growth, because we're living in a world of incredible competition and unbelievably saturation of content. And to cut through and to get the younger generation to experience our game, I think it has to be a little bit different.
Yeah, no, totally. And we would also be one. We would almost be unique in that we practice the sport off the pitch, off the course. And the quicker we can gamify it, if you like, the quicker we can welcome the beginner to, and that's big role of the PGA Pro that we've been talking about. It's not just about technique. It's exactly what you're saying. It's making people fall in love with the game, and they need to do that by playing the game as quickly as possible.
Well, the game is, I think, and I'm not just saying this, and I'm not just biased because I'm in the game. I think it's a special game because of the inclusivity. I think it's a special game because you can play at all ages, and you can play and be competitive at all ages based on the handicap system. So an 8-year-old can play with an 80-year-old. So the inclusivity is incredible, and play a competitive match at that based on the handicap system. So when you look at the health benefits that golf has from both a physical and a mental perspective, the fact that it's very inclusive, like for example, next year at the Scandinavian Mixed, we're playing with Alex from the LET. We're playing, it's the very first tournament, I believe the very first tournament, where professional men and professional women are playing on the same golf course for one trophy for the same prize fund. So they'll be on the leaderboard. The leaderboard won't be 2 separate leaderboards. It will be one leaderboard. And that shows the inclusivity of our game. And I know, Anthony, you know, we're talking about the inclusivity, and we got involved in disabled golf. And we had a very robust conversation at the board of directors of the IGF just last week about golfers with a disability. Because again, you know, where else in the world of sport where a disabled athlete can compete with an able-bodied athlete? Well, golf is one of those sports, and that's why I believe, you know, Anthony, as we talked about it, it has a really big future, and I'm really a big proponent of us as a global industry promoting golfers with a disability.
Yeah, and Tony talked about that on the last panel as well, Anthony. So if I can come over to you on your thoughts on this.
In terms of inclusivity, or in terms of disabled golf, or both?
First of all, how come he was on the panel? He's already been. Is this your second panel?
No. Tony Bennett from Tony, who you know, was on the previous panel, but more about kind of innovation and innovative ideas.
Well, I'll get out on left field as well. And Keith has had discussions with me about this and a number of the tours during the bad times of COVID, when we weren't allowed outside and we weren't watching proper golf on TV. It was esport that became a big thing around the world, actually, not just in golf. And Keith, yourself set up an event, you know, or a competition during this, which was televised, which I thought was fantastic. And it's not just, you know, there was such a growth in interest in esports, even outside golf itself, across the board. And I think, you know, the audience is around 500 million people worldwide were getting into esports. And so one of the things we should be looking at is how we can benefit from, you know, esports, looking at, you know, the additional touch points that it can create, how it extends our traditional fan base, and then how we can also use it to innovate within these games themselves, to then transfer, you know, the casual fan that sort of might be interested in golf a little bit, but gains more interest from actually participating in, you know, console games, or even as we were talking about with Topgolf, the simulator games as well, and then extending that through to competition. I have lab rats at home called kids. They didn't get into golf because Dad played, they didn't want anything to do with golf because that was the reason why I was away from home. I hated it. I brought home a CD-ROM with Tiger Woods golf, and they started getting into it. Next thing I know, my oldest son was saying to me, and he was 10 at the time, Dad, can you bring home those golf magazines you have at your office? And I went, oh, okay. Didn't know why, gave them to him. Then he came downstairs later and said, oh, Dad, tell me, what's the difference between a Titleist driver and a Callaway driver? And I went, hang on, where'd this come from? He said, well, I'm number one on the tour at the moment, and I can have any manufacturer I like, and I just want to make sure I got the best equipment. And then as they progressed through that, they turned around and said to their mum, listen, we like this golf. Can we go and try it? Not me. And then they went down to a driving range. Now they're all into it. Yeah. So to me, that's an opportunity, for us to be really now thinking about how we can use e-sport and first to get a definition of what that is. And I know a number of my members are looking at ways of innovation to capture that audience that's out there and then convert those people into participants and players and fans.
I was dumbfounded.
Yeah, exactly.
I was dumbfounded, Ian, Anthony, when we started an e-tour last year and then COVID hit. And it was a three-way partnership with ourselves, Golf, and Viasat, and Peter Norland from Viasat, who is the president of Viasat, is an incredible forward thinker and is a leader, DreamHack and Viasat in this space. And we had a live event in Abu Dhabi. We televised it live, and I remember going to this event and watching these two guys play a video game, and it was absolutely staggering with the engagement that we had, because one guy had qualified from Chicago, another one from Montreal, Canada. So it was, and they came to Abu Dhabi. We flew them to Abu Dhabi because they got into the finals, and you wouldn't have believed it. You wouldn't have believed, if you were a pure traditionalist, you wouldn't have believed how esport can bring attention to our game. And Anthony, I think your son's question about Titleist or Callaway was a real good one. But that's you're just talking about for the video game, correct?
Yeah, exactly. But it just showed the knowledge that came from it. You're right, and it's here, guys. It's here, and we have to either embrace it or we let it pass us by. And there's publishers and everybody else out there that will take advantage of both commercially and in terms of visibility if we don't seize it.
Yeah.
And
we have to throw Ping into that as well, because they're our partner, and John Clark may well.
Sorry, I shouldn't have used any brands.
Be listening to this. I mentioned earlier John retiring, but it's still with us. So we just had this whole panel on diversity and inclusion, and ironically, Gen Z and this other new audience is not one which we really talked about in there, but it's so important as you're talking about here, because we're so often guilty in golf of talking to golf, and it's how do we get beyond golfers and golf to this wider audience. Anthony, something particularly in the Olympic movement, I guess.
Well, you're right, and the audience that came out, Rio undoubtedly was a surprising success in terms of our visibility and the audience reach we had. And where it differs to any other tournament is certainly the demographic. It's much younger than what usually we watch our tournaments each weekend. And the gender diversity was 55% men, 45% women, and 60% of that audience, which was massive, it was the largest audience for the year, are people that don't normally watch our sport. And so one of the challenges we're putting out to ourselves this year with Tokyo, and we've got another year to plan thanks to the IOC postponing it, is to not only maximize our digital exposure to increase awareness of the sport, but, and this is where your members would be of great assistance, is during around that 3-week window, the games itself and 1 week on either side, so about 4 or 5 weeks, people will be starting to hear about golf that they never heard before, and they may be interested in playing. So that's the great opportunity at your golf courses to attract people to come and just try, and then try and see if we can hook people into become participants. One thing is to get them to be fans and with that interest, but the second interest is participants. And I think there's a great opportunity around the Olympics to experiment and to attract that new audience to watching and playing.
Yeah, totally. Alex, I'm hoping you can hear us now, and thanks for persevering. And I'd like to bring you in. Obviously, US Women's Open this week. And one of the impacts of COVID, and I know Keith will elaborate on this on his scheduling issues as well in a bit. But an interesting thing I was reading earlier, a tweet from the USGA that's saying only 4% of sports content in the States features female athletes or female or female sport, and obviously, you're working on changing that. It is being changed, but it's a tough task. Just share with us some of your thoughts.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great, and I can hear you. So it's my apologies for that. Technology, I guess, as we're talking a little bit about that, doesn't always work in our favor. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that statistic about the television coverage for women's sports. It's not just limited to golf. And it is an incredible figure that it is so low, considering that now for a couple of years there's been a big push on women's sports, and we're getting a lot more visibility across the board, and in the UK on the BBC. But there is a long way to go, and I think, as you say, with a COVID year, it was so important for us to get playing again, because if you're not seen, you're easily and quickly forgotten. And I think that's that was a big push for us to try and get out there. And of the 9 events that we played coming back from lockdown, we managed to get 7 of those on with live coverage. And that is, it is a long way to go, but we just have to find ways. And I think we're kind of making reference here to technology too. That is where, all these new platforms, new media are going to play a big part, and are going to help women's sports, are going to help smaller tours like us to build the profile of the players and the role models of the future that will hopefully also drive participation of the next generation.
Yeah, and I guess a central theme to what we've been talking about over the last couple of days, collaboration. Now, obviously, Keith has just mentioned about mixed formats. Disappointing that the Scandinavian event couldn't happen this year, but as you're rolling into next year, how much is that going to help as well?
I think, it was already something that was planned for this year before COVID. And we all saw the strength and importance of working closer together. And one thing that we've definitely learned from COVID, that collaboration and new ideas and finding new formats will drive the tours forward and help the sport survive. It's going to be a challenge on the back of COVID, and all these new opportunities that we can find. And there seems to be a very natural synergy, and it's come together quite easily, considering the schedule of the European tour and the kind of various challenges that we could have. It just seems to have resonated with a lot of partners, this idea of working together.
And Keith, obviously, and I'll come back to Alex's view on this as well, but moving on to collaboration, you're not going to get away lightly, but your recent alliance with the PGA Tour, which is, I believe, great news for golf and great news for you. I mean, obviously, a perfect example of collaboration. How do you see that?
I think it's a terrific opportunity, as Jack did say, as I did hear this as he was signing off, that the alliance between our two respective tours is good for the global game, and I believe that. And we really are taking a page out of what transpired with the LPGA and the LET. And Mike Wan and the LPGA came in and wanted to again support and grow the LET. Martin Slumbers and myself joined the board of the LET. We created the tournament, the Scandinavian Mixed, which is going to happen this year. And there's another event that, as I said, that Alex we haven't mentioned quite yet, that is also on the schedule. Well, it's on our schedules that that it's not 100% confirmed, but we're definitely going to do 2 events next year together, and I'm excited about that. The alliance with the PGA Tour is something that Jay and I have chatted about for 4.5 years, and what we became during COVID-19 is a lot closer. Our respective chief medical officers were speaking on a daily basis. We were talking and sharing best practices. We were part of a group with the other 4 majors in the LPGA that were talking about the global schedule. And we said midway through it that we should probably get together and find a way to work closer together. So we had our first official conversation, I think it was April 4th. And 6 or 7 or how many months ago that is later, we've come to an agreement. And I'm incredibly, as is my executive leadership team, energized by the opportunity here. Jay Monahan joins our board. I've always said that golf is somewhat fractured, and we go from competitors to partners overnight, and that's exciting. And as I said the other day to our head of communications, I said the list is the list is endless of the possibilities we can do together. But the bottom line is, it will be, I think, fantastic for global golf, fantastic for European golf, great for our members, and great for the consumer as well. So it's we're just in week number, I guess, 2 now, but we've already created so many different work streams, and the conversations are going. And today, the PGA Tour, and they were talking about it today here in Dubai at the DP World Tour Championship. The PGA Tour were promoting the DP World Tour Championship, and that the players that were playing and their PGA Tour members, and that just wouldn't have happened before. And that is only fantastic for the game. It's terrific for the European Tour, and it's terrific for the consumer. So, Fleetwood said to me last night, I don't think I've seen a smile on your face this big in a long time. And it is a smile that's been continuous over the last week.
Yeah, good news. And Alex, I think that announcement was almost a year to the day from when you and the LPGA aligned. And obviously, you've been challenged during 2020, as we all. But how are you seeing the fruits of that relationship now?
It's been an incredible success. I think, as Keith refers to, the fragmentation of golf didn't really make sense. For us to work together as the same game to grow the game made more sense than us kind of competing with each other, which was odd. We go into this with a plan, and the initial plan was to grow the number of tournaments and give our members playing opportunities. And obviously the year kind of didn't allow for that, but it just allowed for us to realize how much more we can do together, and how we have partnered in so many other ways, that it has been really, really interesting, and has given us, I guess, a good footing for where we can go with it, and continue with that momentum. So it's a much wider partnership than any of us could have expected as we were planning on launching this a year ago.
Yeah, so far more benefits than challenges I'm hearing from both of you, which is great.
I think it is spectacular, Alex. I think the conversations that we're having now would never have happened a couple of years ago. I applaud yourself and the LPGA for coming together. We are privileged to be part of it, and I'm excited to see how the Scandinavian mixed works. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And as I said, Ian, innovation is all about complementing the traditional 72-hole tournament. The 72-hole tournament will always be the core of what we do. We are a very traditional sport. We want to maintain the integrity at the highest level, but at the same time, you have to try things different because things are moving so quickly now, and so you can't just stay pat. And in order for people to love the 72-hole tournament, we have to do some things different. 52 weeks. It's a long year. Can't have 52 72-hole tournaments.
Absolutely. Anthony, I think your organization epitomizes collaboration in my view. You have a small team of staff there in Lausanne, pretty much the same way as we operate as CPG. And then you use the best available resources to you, and you align organizations. You have delivery partners such as the PGA Tour, the European Tour, etc. for your tournaments. You work with us and other PGAs on the International Golf Coaching Framework. Explain a little bit more about how that works.
I think it goes back to, I've now been in this role 10 years, believe it or not. It feels like still 1 or 2. I think it goes back to looking at other international federations when I was based at the International Olympic Committee and just seeing how they competed against their membership rather than working with them. And to me, knowing what I did about golf at the time, the best people in golf are working in golf. So why create a parallel universe here in Switzerland that would be competing just on resources and on other things? So when I was first looking at this and determining how we would operate here in Switzerland, to me, the first thing I said to the board was, I'll put together a business plan, but you people will have to resource me, be that financially as well as with people, because you got the best people in the world. Plus nobody knew me. I came from outside golf. That was pretty rare back then, to have somebody that wasn't in golf take on this role. I'm in isolation in Switzerland. Does this good guy know what he's doing, and can we keep an eye on him? So for me, it just made sense. Don't create a parallel universe, waste a lot of money and resources building an organization that actually we had a very small period of time to really deliver games. That was the key thing for us, delivering Olympic Games. And in doing that, it really had to be a collaboration of everybody delivering professional golf around the world. All the tours had to be there. And in my view, you have to have the best people running this event, which the majors do. They bring the best people in. And that was vindicated, A, by a result in Rio. But secondly, on top of that, one of the comments I got back from a number of the players and the caddies that were there in Rio, and they were talking, they were hunkered down into an environment they were never used to. They were sleeping in a dormitory, eating in a canteen, traveling on a bus. Okay, that was weird enough. And with other athletes who are experiencing the same thing, especially tennis and other basketballers, etc. And what they were hearing back was when the other sports were going to these events, they didn't know anybody. They didn't know the officials because they weren't the people they were dealing with week in, week out, etc. So for them, it was a weird environment. They didn't feel that the competition, they're unsure about how the competition was going to happen. There was a lot of uncertainties going into Rio as well. But what the players were saying to me and the caddies was, as soon as they arrived at the course, they saw the familiar faces. They saw JP. They saw, every Slugger White. They saw everybody out there, and they went, "Okay, I know these people. Oh, this is a major." And they got out in the course. Oh, yeah, okay, I get it. Or I'll probably get in trouble by saying a major, but this is an important event, and so that relaxed them, and that added to the experience as well. They didn't have to worry about the field of play. They could enjoy outside the competition, and similarly to that, why not use the best people in golf? And so I'm blessed with the board I have. Others would say I'm cursed, but I think I'm blessed because I've got the gods of golf that actually make decisions, and from making decisions comes action. We don't have to go up another ladder to get authority to deliver what we've determined. And it builds a very strong working relationship and very clear ideals of what we're going to deliver together. And so, you know, I was Keith knows, I was really pleased about the collaboration that's moving forward with the PGA Tour and the European Tour, because I see it day in, day out in the way we operate. And similarly with the LET and the LPGA, again, I always have seen those teams working together on the delivery of not only the Rio Olympics, but all our other projects. And the same working with you guys on coaching and development. That's not our specialty. But we want to take the skills that the PGAs have and get you out there coaching people correctly and building in these much smaller, less developed countries, as Jack calls them, and benefiting the sport and growing the game. So, long answer to the question, but what that's done is made us, during these really bad times, very flexible, very nimble, and able to change and adapt very quickly, which that's the world now. You know, and Keith will tell you that. You've got, and on to what you were saying in terms of innovation, we need to try things now. And if we fail, we fail. But we've got to try things now. That's what this is teaching us, this environment now. And that's what we're trying. You know, we come up with some ideas with the board and they either say yes or no, and we have a go and it works, great. If not, it's not a failure, but we have to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a fantastic example of everything we've been talking about. What I'm trying to do, or we're trying to do with CPG as well, collaborate. Is use the best people for the best things, and as a result, hopefully, we create a combined effort for golf where the collective is far stronger than the sum of the parts, and that's what we'll keep pushing towards.
Yeah, mate. It's not about the IGF. It's not about the CPG. It's about golf. And that's absolutely why we're here. You know, golf's got to come first on this pyramid. Yeah.
And a great statement that David Kearney made earlier about leaving your egos at the door and just doing what's right for the game. And that's what, that's the message that's coming across. Keith, I was with you a month or 6 weeks ago, and but we're not going to really linger on the impacts of COVID in 2020, but you were explaining to me that you hadn't finalized your schedule until 2 days before for this year, let alone next. So I think what I will do is look forward with that. And what it's created is, yes, some innovation from you to enable 2020 to happen. And then 2021, we've just got an amazing schedule to look forward to.
You know what's amazing about 2021, and this is a staggering stat. We have 20 tournaments that are returning in 2021 that were postponed, canceled in 2020. So if you think about that, those 20 tournaments that we had to replace, and with no partners, no promoter. So we played 25 events in 23 weeks. Last week was another week where we played in South Africa and in Dubai. This week only in Dubai. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about efficiency, about resilience, about creativity, about never saying no, about having to deal with almost deep depression when back in March, it seemed like every day we were having an event that was canceled. We started a scheduling call, I think it was April 14th, with the executive leadership team. We still had it. We still have it now. It's because it's just become part of what we do. But it was the schedule in April didn't look like the schedule it did now. But those 20 events we've had to replace this year, they all come back in 2021, plus all the new events that we've had. There are 2 events in the fall in 2021 we can't get into our schedule. Fully funded events that we can't get in. And that's never happened before. So I think that is all a testament to the resilience and the ability of the people that we had, and I think that we have at the tour. And I think this also is a time when people step up to the plate, and they certainly did this year.
Alex, I'm sure that's a problem you'd like to face. Not being able to fit tournaments in. I know you're getting closer to it.
Room if you want to send them over. No, but I mean, from our side, I mean, it's a similar story. Obviously, yeah, sitting back in March, and then you're doing a schedule for that year pretty much every other day, and everything is kind of falling apart, and just don't expect when or how you're going to get back to playing. But from our perspective, I mean, we managed to launch in 2020 the strongest schedule in the history of the tour with the biggest prize money, and then obviously all kind of fell apart a bit. But in line with what Keith is saying, all those events except Australia, which at the moment at the beginning of the year is going to be impossible to play due to restrictions, are committed for 2021, and there's quite a number of conversations going on for next year. So if COVID doesn't play too much havoc in the next year, I think we'll also be back to playing quite a regular schedule and a strong schedule. So from that side, the perseverance this year has definitely paid off for next year.
You can give yourself credit, Alex, too, as well as you were part of creating the 2 events in Saudi Arabia, but not only just in creating events there, but also involved in the entire growth of the women's game. And I think that is, having the opportunity to be on the LET board, they are definitely committed to growing the game. And I know there's a couple of initiatives that you're going to announce for next year. And so congrats on getting back to playing this year. It's not been easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's thanks to a lot of the help also. I mean, I think that's also there was such a unity between all the tours in collaborating between all the medical advisors with all other sports. I think it really did bring and shine a new light on how we can all work together to deliver the best sporting events possible, which I don't think any of us independently could have done.
Yeah, we shared medical advice and medical strategies, and so yeah, it was I think it was a momentous year for global golf, and I think that it only benefits the entire game going forward.
Yeah, Keith, I can really emphasize how it has, because working with the IRC and Tokyo 2020 to reschedule and reorganize the games, golf has been seen amongst all the other sports as the leader in this COVID environment, in awe actually, as to how consistently we've been able to deliver across the world with very little issues. And we've been able to take all the learnings of yourselves, and all of you have been kind enough to share that with us, to then give this to virtually giving this to the organizing committee and the IRC, just open book as to how things are being delivered now and how it's evolving, and because of that, I'm feeling fairly confident about delivering these games next year. And sat in some meetings yesterday, and everybody's sort of pointing to us and saying, well, you've given us the model for which that's given us some light at the end of this tunnel. So yeah, that I think everybody should appreciate what we've been doing internationally as a sport by competing week in, week out.
Well, I would say having the privilege of being on both the IGF and the LET board, I think the theme and the philosophy is in fact just that, Anthony and Alex, is everyone comes in with the right attitude, that regardless of where you're working and regardless of where you're competitive, and listen, we are competitors in some ways, not obviously with the IGF, but people that are on those boards. But it really is, our competition is not really each other. It should be the other sports. And that's kind of the way that I think there's been a massive turn in terms of collaboration with the governing bodies. And I think that only spells massive opportunities and growth potential for the global game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Keith. I know you're on a tight time frame here, but yeah, I think one of the things I'd just like to bring us back to is that point on developing the game, because the sharing of knowledge, the collaboration, the sharing of good practice, what we're seeing as a result of that, you know, when the Ryder Cup became a European team, it was really Britain and a couple of Spaniards. Now where we are, we've got Victor Hovland winning last week, you know, following on Norway's success from Suzanne. We've got Emily Pedersen from Denmark dominating your tour, Alex, with 3 wins in a row. And, you know, even a Polish guy, I've mentioned it a couple of times, Adrian Moronk coming through now, the first Pole to be leading on the European tour. I think this is what the spreading of this, you know, good practice from coaching, from playing, and from game development. That's the global impact it will have, and that's what we want to take forward.
Yeah, well, it's such a wonderful global game. Like who would have thought we're here in Dubai for the DP World Tour Championship, and Danny Willett is saying in a press conference that he's praising Patrick Reed, and if Patrick Reed wins, it becomes the first American to win the Order of Merit on the European Tour. It would be a positive thing for the tour and for golf. It's a miraculous thing to say, and phenomenal from one of the world's best and former Masters champ.
Totally. Any further views from you, Alex, on that point as well, and just how you're seeing the game spread?
I mean, I just have to say, on the basis of the coaching, I have seen in the years that I've been involved with the tour and in golf, the players when they come on, they join the tour when they're professional, their quality, they're ready to compete is incredible. How good the coaching is, how good. And I think a little bit now also that gap between amateur golf and professional golf is kind of closing, so it's a much natural transition, and when they do come and join the tour, they are prepared. It takes a little bit of experience, but their level of game is incredible. They are ready to kind of just win tournaments. I mean, we had Alice Houston, I guess, was a rookie and won her first tournament that she turned up at. So there is incredible stories, and I think and then this year it has been incredible to give us some of those amazing stories, which has also been really nice and gratifying for the effort that we've all put in.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I'm going to Anthony, anything to add before I know?
Bring it down to the grassroots level, because we're talking at the elite level. Your membership are key to us, and I think the biggest challenge I throw out to them is, how can we make this game simpler for beginners? And how does your coaching, and do we as people that have a say in how the rules are written have to think more outside the box to make this a simpler game to progress people through to playing doubles or whatever? I think that's the key thing, and they're key to making it simpler, coaching it simpler, and then starting the pathways that people will take, be it recreational or elite. What I've seen and been impressed with is dealing with yourselves and all the PGAs, that the quest is to be better at coaching. You want to do it better each time. You're not just happy with the way things are. And I think so. Foundations definitely are built into coaching, but how do we make it easier for people to start and more accessible with the point of entry? They're the big challenges, and we've been asking this question for a long, long time, I know, but it's about time we started to come up with some solutions, really.
And it's got to be fun, though, Anthony. It has to be.
I mean, that's key. It's got to be fun, absolutely. And it's fun when it's easy. It's not fun when it's hard.
No, and it's a hard game.
It is.
It's a hard game, so you have to make it. You have to make it simple. You have to make it fun, and you have to make it shorter. Right, the attention span right now. You mentioned Gen Z. Gen Z attention span compared to the Gen Y, I think, is 3 to 4 seconds difference. It's a massive difference. The difference of the attention span, and our game is a complicated, long game. It's the greatest game, but making it simpler and making it fun. Yeah. You would, let's be honest. If you were to invent the game now, how many holes would it be?
You're going to fit in an hour.
Wouldn't be 18.
No, you got to fit in an hour. Yeah.
And if you're going to build a golf course now, you'd never build it 18 holes down one way, 9 and back the other. You'd build it in loops of 3s or 6s, right? You have to have so many different forms of playing right now to engage all kinds of different people.
Sure.
With you know, like with this. Try to get a 15-year-old to play 18 holes without this. Try it. It's difficult.
Well, you know, the way around that is you build into the clubs the technology so they can at least focus on that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Otherwise, they're not attentive on the game.
Well, eventually the chip will be in the brain, so it won't really matter, Anthony.
I think we're moving faster in golf than we ever have done before, and that's testament to everybody involved. And we're changing faster than we ever have done before. Lots more to do, and we could carry on with this for ages. I will just finish off with going back to the elite side. We cannot wait for next year. Olympics, Solheim Cup, Ryder Cup. We're all going to be involved in those, and what a year to look forward to. And again, great collaboration so that none of those events get in the way of each other, but they all complement each other. So thank you so much to the three of you for taking the time today, and great messages to be shared with our audience.
Thanks, Ed.
That's a big hand, Anthony. That's one.
Thank you very much.
Give it back.